And welcome back to part 3 of Culinary Identity. Let's transition here a little
Okay.
bit. Um, and this still kind of falls into the culinary identity. And is there anything else on the culinary identity that you want to kind of touch on? Because if not, I want to jump into talking prefix.
Yeah, let's talk prefix.
Okay. I'm going to stop this real quick. Okay. Morris.
Yes, sir.
Let's talk prefix menus.
Prefix menus.
So, yes. And this is something that in Europe, especially France, is very common.
Mm-hmm.
And here in the US, a prefix menu means two things. You're at a really fucking high end place,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just this is their menu. Or you're a cheap asshole going around restaurant week bitching that
I forgot about
your iced
restaurant
tea
week.
isn't
Oh shit.
your 3-course prefix menu for $30 or whatever, and you're bitching that your iced tea isn't free.
Yeah.
You're not ordering wine. It's just you're part of what makes Restaurant Week an absolute fucking beating.
Mm-hmm.
And God, fucking Restaurant Weeks.
I forgot all
But
about
I
that.
love the concept of a prefix
Mm-hmm.
where it allows the restaurant to just show off,
Yeah.
use what they have, and it allows me to just sit down, not worry about anything,
Mm-hmm.
just order a nice bottle of wine and just enjoy the experience.
Right.
Enjoy the company. Take your phone, like put it away,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you want to take pictures, fine, but don't be sitting there like ignoring everybody else at the table. That's what I love about the prefix menu.
Yep.
Regardless of how many courses it is, right? It doesn't have to be big. When my wife and I were traveling through Europe or through France, one thing I loved was there was a place where your menu options was like the 3, the 5, and like the chef experience, right? But there was no this, that, or the other, and the price point was incredibly affordable.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem I see with the prefix here in the US is the guest.
Yeah. Yeah.
These guests that are coming into these restaurants are so fucking entitled. And the whole, I want it my way. You're here to serve me. Like, it's like, listen, take that fucking shitty ass mentality, go to a fucking fast food chain, right? That doesn't care about you, the food, or its people. Right? Because your attitude fits in perfectly with who they are.
Right.
But if you're wanting the experience, then welcome.
Mm-hmm. Because the beauty of a prefix menu is you really have to give all your trust over to the chef. Like you have to just rely on the fact that he knows what he's doing and he's going to take care of you no matter what your preconceptions or what you wanted when you walked in. Like you're still going to get good food and you're going to get it at a good price. And I think you're right. The problem with the prefix is that like American people are very opinionated and
I like my word entitled better.
And the idea of variety has been kind of instilled in us for a long time because you can go to the grocery store and get anything you want. the whole seasonality and the connection with food has been wiped away. So a lot of people don't want to go to a restaurant and not be able to order specifically what they want. And that's sad because you're missing out on a lot of technique and a lot of creativity and a lot of love that goes into certain dishes. And I don't get those people that just like they're like, I don't eat that.
Well, that's why I'm saying. I mean, it's maybe the next revolution is, that more these smaller restaurants kind of focusing more on this prefix. And hey, Rich, if you're listening, start doing a prefix. Um, and and then the whole like, hey, if you want to be the one that wants to customize the shit out of stuff, and you just want to go bitch because you're having a shitty day, or you want to sit down and make up some fucking fake food allergies just because you don't like them, go somewhere, go to one of those big chain restaurants that doesn't care,
Right.
right? And if you care and you want to enjoy something, that is combination of sustenance and art,
Mm-hmm. I like that tie-in.
right? Yep, yep, right. Listen to that
Mm-hmm.
episode. Then go find one of those restaurants from chefs and the team of chefs that do care,
Mm-hmm. I think that
because you're going to have an amazing experience.
that relationship between chefs and guests is more in question now than it has been in the past, where like a lot of these smaller restaurants and these chefs, it doesn't even have to be like necessarily a prefix menu, but they are small menus so that they can focus more on the quality. Is that if you don't like my food, then what the fuck are you doing here? Don't come back. I don't care.
Well, even then, like these smaller restaurants, and and I hope I'm wrong, and I'm generalizing. Wow, that was a hard word. This too much, but even those smaller restaurants, you'll see you're going to have. It's almost like a little checklist. You've got your salmon, your chicken, your red meat, right? Maybe a pork
Mm-hmm.
dish, a vegetarian dish, which is going to be either risotto or a pasta,
Yeah, I did too.
right? I mean, unfortunately, but I mean, it's just a very generic, like, okay, I mean, in, but if you follow that pattern, you're not going to be wrong.
Yeah.
Now, you're going to lose part of your soul, right? You're going to lose part of your identity. And by following that routine, though, you're now forfeiting any creativity you wanted to be involved
Mm-hmm.
with. You're forfeiting the ability to then go to the your guest and say, "This is what we're doing. You can't bitch about it."
Mm-hmm.
So you decided to start playing their game, so you're not allowed to bitch about not being able to play your game.
Yeah. The burger too. Even though some of the most high-end restaurants always have a burger on the menu, and it could be the most crazy, insane burger ever with wagyu beef and a fucking slice of foie gras on it and shit like that. But there will always be a burger because, I mean, they're so
Yeah.
like ubiquitous item.
Well, I mean, you can be like in New York, oh wow, I'm going blank. Um, Minetta, oh my God, why can I not
What are
think
you
about
talking about?
this? It's just more of a famous burger. I can't even spell what I'm trying to say. Minetta Tavern, Minetta Tavern. It's an old ass restaurant, French bistro kind of place in New York, and they have a burger. It's a famous burger, but you can only get it at the bar, and I think they only produce like 20 a
Mm-hmm.
day. So, and when it's gone, it's gone. No apologies. Like, sorry. It's like, dude, yeah, it's a great burger. Everything else here is great too.
Yeah.
you know, so we're doing. Um, God, I feel bad, man. I could not say that name. I've known this restaurant for fucking ever. I don't know why. I just went kind of blank
You're
there.
old.
Fuck you. And I say that in the nicest
Oh,
possible
I
way.
felt it. I felt the love.
Yeah, we'll spoon later. I'll make up for it. Oh, I'm not supposed to talk about that live, am
I don't mind.
I?
Let it be known.
um, oh man, hopefully our wives don't hear this.
Mine will. She loves the podcast. I have fans.
uh, well, at least there's one. All right. What I mean, so we've talked prefix here. We've talked the pros and the
Mhm.
cons. I voiced why I like it and why I don't necessarily seen it happen in embraced as much as it should
Yeah.
be. Um, Now I think Rich at the Heritage Table could pull it off. Um, and not in a restaurant week format.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because it also embraces the zero waste
Yeah.
mentality. Um, but so we've talked why we like it and what the problems with it and a lot of the problems are really just the
Mm-hmm.
guest. In unfortunately having a new experience with it, not being able to choose and wanting to customize the fuck out of
Yeah.
everything. Um, yeah, I'll take that, but can I get this sauce on the side? I don't know if I like that. Put that on the side. Ah, just fucking sit down and enjoy, right? Chances are your life sucks. Stop trying to control everything and just enjoy something. It'll make your life better, I
And when you get
promise.
to that level of cooking, everything that goes on the plate has meaning.
Purpose.
It's to create the
Yes.
harmony of the dish. You take one thing out of it, and now it's not the same thing.
No. Uh-uh. Um, so the question then is what needs to happen and what can people listening to this take away on, I mean, what would be the next steps in helping open this up? Like, right now we're talking about all the problems, not offering any solution.
Right.
Right. So what's the solution then?
Um,
We're for it. I'm for it. You're
yeah.
for it.
I think, I mean, people just need to be a little bit more open minded, and that's not a solution. um, and people need to be a little bit more concerned about where the food comes from, how it's prepared, and where the actual waste from it is going.
I'm going to kind of play devil's advocate for myself here real quick. What if the guest is a lot more willing to do this than we're giving them credit for?
Uh,
And now at this point, it's more of the fear on the chefs and the restaurants about doing something
I
like
mean, that
this.
is also very possible.
And it's instead of acknowledging that fear, we're going to blame it on the guest because not only is that more enjoyable,
It's,
but it's a great distraction.
well, I mean, we're all everybody that's been in the restaurant has had to deal with that same problem. It's a it's a form of trauma. You don't just get over past trauma that easily. We're trauma brothers, and you can you can want to put yourself out there as much as you want, and you can try a little bit. But like you said, if you're scared of what the guest thinks, then you have to have that checklist. But like I said, I think more and more chefs are steering away from that because the guests have been so wrong in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And to a certain extent, some of them know that. And that's why I think are getting better. But like I said, it's a long road.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really know what the
It's a
solution would
long.
be other than
I,
think about it a little bit more.
I've got the solution. Oh, come on. Stick your hopes and prayers up your
Oh,
ass, dude. Well, I mean, not in the. I say that in the nicest
I know.
possible way. Um, thinking about it more is gonna just delay and just now all of a sudden it's dead. Like nothing's gonna happen. Um, and I've gone completely blank on where I was going with this before I decided to be a dick about
Actions
it.
speak louder than words.
It's something
Mm-hmm.
of that, right? And just and do it because the other part is it. We're not talking about ditching your entire fucking menu and just going exclusively to we're doing 3 or 4 dishes,
Right.
right? You can grow into that.
I think you would have to.
You
You kind of have to establish a little bit of a reputation for yourself before you just open a restaurant and say we're prefix only, unless you're in France.
or even existing places,
Yeah.
right? You can have your regular menu and then have another prefix menu, um, and just and just have that be the thing. Um, the Zaitinia by Jose
Oh,
Andreas, right?
that was one of my favorite
Right.
meals,
There's the
man.
one here in man, I still wish
Yeah.
it was here. Absolute favorite restaurant. Um, and every time my wife and I would go, um, we would get their, I guess it was a prefix. It was like the chef's tasting, and it wasn't like a big menu. It was actually just a line item on their regular menu, which was like 6 pages or
Yeah.
something. Because it was all kinds of just different things. And it was, I think, $50 a person. It was
Yeah. It
pretty
was super
reasonable
cheap.
considering the amount of food
Yeah.
you got. And it was high quality. And I mean, it was
Mm-hmm.
phenomenal. Like, and so we never went there and actually went through the menu. We just sat down and said, yeah, we'll just do this. And every time, like, we'd be like, oh my God, please tell me we're almost done. And it had, but in a good
Yeah.
way, right? It was like, we are stuffed. Um, and so you can do that,
Yeah.
right? Everybody else can do that. So you don't have to get rid of your whole menu.
Have the
You
prefix and
can,
the a la carte together.
mhm, right? And see what kind of reaction you get. Really train your staff up to why this prefix is such an
Mm-hmm.
amazing thing. Where it's not the leftover special
Right.
menu, but it's where the chefs and your team can really have fun with the creativity, and it's really the purest form of what that
And
restaurant
it's a
is.
great value.
So yeah, and so someone wants to go and they're just really looking to start with the fans of the restaurant, your regulars, the people that are coming there, and be like, hey, you guys are going to love
Mm-hmm.
this, right? And start with them and then get them behind it, and then they can start bringing friends and talking about it. I think it can grow.
Yeah.
So I think that's the solution. But first, we're going to have to start getting a lot more restaurants that are chef owner
Right.
operators that have the willingness to want to put the effort into that level of
Mm-hmm.
creativity. Because some chef owner operator restaurants, the chef's just done. I mean, might as well have been me back there or
Oh.
something, where I'm just like an old, bitter, jaded, you know, you enjoyed that way too much.
Just thought it was a funny thing to say.
um, no, I'm not old, bitter, jaded. There's been plenty of times I have been, without the old part. All
Mm-hmm.
right, I'm not that old, but but man, where you can actually just get involved and have that creativity and just the community mindset of when you got a great team that really is vested in it as well, and everybody's got just that think tank that starts
Mm-hmm.
happening. Holy shit!
It's a beautiful thing.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, when I was building restaurants in my mind, just kind of my own pipe dream building restaurants. Um, my wife and I early in our relationship were talking about it. It's like, oh, we're gonna win the lottery and we're gonna go find this one perfect piece of property somewhere, and we're gonna build this thing, destination restaurant. But I mean, whatever. But there was always one room. It was like a conference room that was a library, and and just whiteboards, and that's just kind of where you would go to brainstorm
Right.
menus. Um, I think Le Bernardin has something like that. Um, and but once again, it's going to require space to do
Yeah.
that. Uh, and in square footage wise, if you've got space that isn't generating income,
Yeah.
chances are it's not
It
going to
can
be
be as
there.
simple as a big whiteboard in the kitchen and invite everybody. The servers and managers, and
Sure.
it doesn't just have to be cooks. I mean, like if you have an idea, just jot it down. What harm can it do?
Yeah. Well, I can tell you the harm it can do. Public embarrassment. I can already see it. Someone writes something up there, that they think's a good idea because the whole concept is, hey, there's no such thing as a bad idea. Because there really isn't, right? Because you don't know where that idea can spur somebody else like in a different
Right.
direction on something. Um, you know, and but I can already see it in that somewhat of that community where everybody can just write something down. Somebody walks up and looks at it and goes like, "Who the fuck put that up there?" Now all of a sudden, it's like you could see someone just shrinking down into their own
You got to
skin.
create a culture that doesn't do that kind of shit.
Well, if it was pretty bad, I would do that.
I mean, if it was pretty bad, I might do that too, but maybe maybe not out loud in front of everybody. Did you write this down? It's stupid. No, no, no.
It depends on on
Yeah,
my
it
day.
does.
All right, man. I think we're good on that. So, any other topic? I mean, we've kind of talked culinary identity, and we've spun this off into, the
Mhm.
bistronomy, the growth, some of the zero waste, and then prefix, uh, and some great ideas there. What part of culinary identity have we not hit?
Uh, I guess like individual chefs as opposed to like American identity as a whole.
What do you
Well,
mean?
if you have like, are we still recording? Okay,
Yes.
so like I told you about how I grew up, right? And that experience to
Uh huh.
me seems almost like ubiquitously American. Like my friends all grew up the same way. We just, our cultures or, wherever we came from, it wasn't discussed, it wasn't acknowledged. I didn't know I was Irish until I was in my 20s. But if you come from a background, whether it's I don't know, you're Mexican or you're French or even if you're Canadian, like you have something to kind of fall back on. And I don't mean that in like any kind of negative way. It's just like when you're brought up with a cuisine, you have a lot of respect for that cuisine, whereas a lot of us are blank slates. So as an American chef, aligning yourself with a certain cuisine, it's I want to say it's difficult, but
Right.
it's a
I
big
feel you.
choice. You know, you do what makes you feel good, obviously, but it's I don't know if it's harder or easier to be that blank slate. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because when you grow up with nothing more than burgers, pizza, and mac and cheese, not saying that's what you grew
No,
up with,
yeah, yeah,
but just I mean, just generalizing the whole concept of American food. Um, I mean, you don't really have an
yeah.
identity. So I'm I know that's what you just said. I'm just
Mm-hmm.
summarizing in my own
Mm.
simple words because
You're
I'm
more
old.
articulate than I am.
um, I don't know if that's true, but yeah, no, it's an interesting thought. I never really put that together because, I mean, for me, it was California, growing up in California. I didn't realize it at the time, but a lot of that really is stuck with me
Right.
though. Some of the California cuisine and just more of the infusion of the Pacific Rim Asian
Mm-hmm.
cultures. So, and that's still there. Um, Now it's just infused with a little bit more barbecue.
I even remember when we were at Barley and you brought in artichokes for the first time and taught us how to turn artichokes, and you were
Hmm.
like, in California, sometimes this is dinner, like just a roasted artichoke with some butter. And that was fucking crazy
Yeah,
to me. I had never even seen an artichoke in real life. So it's not just, cultural backgrounds from like other countries or whatever. I mean, it's also just your location within the country itself. I was born and raised in Texas, but what does Texas have? Tex-Mex and barbecue. That's not the kind of food I cook. You have to make choices,
hmm,
and I don't really know what I'm trying to say. It's just an interesting thought when you don't have that cultural background to fall back on.
yeah, yeah. Because in California, there's a lot more farms that are smaller, local. Just a ton more produce for obvious reasons. Um, yeah, Texas, it's not as much that. And then you get into the whole concept of identity of, like, say, chili. Does chili have beans? Does it not have beans? Maybe it's supposed to have pasta in it.
Serve it over spaghetti or cinnamon rolls.
Did you say cinnamon rolls? Who the fuck puts chili on cinnamon
Wisconsin.
rolls? Wisconsin. That's a
Yeah,
new
they
one.
put chili on cinnamon rolls. It's a thing. I,
I mean,
I
I could
tried it
see
once. It
it.
was fucking weird.
I'm not disagreeing with that. Huh. Anyway, I don't know if it got on chili, but no, that's, yeah, finding your identity. It could be why so many American chefs growing up so quickly just try to latch on to
Yeah,
something.
and I did. We talked about that. It was really through like I just wanted to escape the lack of culture and submerge myself in other cultures, and it came out in my food, and then my food became very disjointed.
Because you're trying to
Yeah.
find yourself. You're using the food as kind of that
Mhm.
experiment. Who am I, daddy?
It's a valid question.
Not your papa, son.
I don't know how to further
Um,
expound on that. It's just a weird idea.
it is, but I mean, very valid. Hmm.
So if I open a restaurant, no matter what I make, is it New American?
Um, well, if you don't go into another category that is conveniently located in the checkboxes in your Yelp page that wants to put a title to what you're doing, then yes, you're New
Well,
American.
that sucks.
Because you're only allowed to check one box.
Yeah. To me, it has kind of a negative connotation. Like, it seems lazy, but I don't want to discount it altogether because some people might be really passionate about what New American cuisine is or isn't.
Yeah, and I don't have another idea on that one, on what, because I understand the importance of being able to align, so to speak, with who you are on when someone's searching for something. You know, like, hey, where are we going to go to eat? Um, you don't want to end up place and show up somewhere and just be like, it's nothing but vegan curry, and you're like, huh, not what I wanted right now. I mean, hopefully the name would have given it away, but I'm not
Yeah.
judging anybody. Um, and yeah, and then, but if you were to check like French, then so many people would just be like, "Oh, sounds fancy." Even though you could just be like rustic country French,
Yeah.
right? Um, but yet Italian is considered cheap.
I think Italian's really having its moment in the sun again. Like these,
Well,
like
real
well,
Italian or New
high
York
end
Italian?
Italian.
Okay.
Not too long ago, I think Mexican cuisine was really being pushed into directions that people didn't know it could go. I think Italian, like quote unquote Mediterranean, is is the new boom in restaurants. You see a lot of Mediterranean restaurants opening up.
Let's expound on that, to use one of your bougie
Mm-hmm.
words there. I recently had this conversation with a, a client that I've been working with on
Uh-huh.
on a restaurant, and they they said with like Mediterranean flair or influence on something. So I'm like, okay, let's talk
Mm-hmm.
about this real quick. The Mediterranean is
Yeah.
huge. It's roughly the size of the continental
Mm-hmm.
US, right? It is not some small little lake, right? It is huge in the amount of cultures, in types of food that come from each region of it are
Mm-hmm.
vastly different. So and then the other problem is when you say Mediterranean, the American mindset automatically goes to
Yeah.
hummus. I mean, just a
Mm-hmm.
Greek restaurant, right? So it's not a Greek restaurant. It's in what people are trying to say when they're saying, what this client was trying to infer was more the Mediterranean
Right.
diet. Fruits, nuts, vegetables. Essentially
Mm-hmm.
cleaner, healthier. So it was like, okay, we need to lose the word Mediterranean, because I understand that's what you think, but people are going to go a very different
Yeah.
direction with that. So I mean, like I said, I mean, I we had a restaurant that we were going to open with that group, and they were calling it Mediterranean, and I was like, okay, let's talk about this. You know, yes, I mean, does that mean I can do, a hand, do a pasta out of Italy, but instead of using, your typical garlic, onion, basil, kind of base, so to speak, I'm going to bring in like Ras Al Hanout from Morocco,
Yeah.
you know, um, instead of like mascarpone, we're going to be using,
Mhm.
raita. It's like, where are we going with this? What do you mean by, um, and that's just me saying how, like, it's kind of that bowling
Right.
alley. All right. Saying Mediterranean is not identity. That's like saying New
Right.
American. Like, what the fuck does that really mean? So
Wor-
that's my rant on Mediterranean.
Words have a lot of impact when it comes
Meaning?
to defining food.
Yes. And people have so much preconceived
Right.
ideas of what it should be based on their shitty
Yeah.
experience somewhere. Or great, but they're automatically going to show up with a preconceived idea of what they can get. And
And
that's
that's
it.
it.
Hey, chefs, appreciate you all listening to this week's episodes on culinary identity. Look forward to next week. Next week, we've got talking situations that just about every chef has been faced with. I shouldn't say situations, it's one situation every chef has been faced with. And if you haven't faced it yet, then it's just a matter of time. You're probably just too young. So stay tuned for that one.